Hey, I'm Michael McMahon. I've worked for 45 years running 5 centers for learning disabilities and autism, young adults on the spectrum mostly. And I have a lot of experience with anxiety and depression, being a psychologist and also growing up in a family with huge problems with people, not only with autism, alcoholism, and learning differences. And experienced my own problems growing up. So what I wanted to say today is be very practical in my words. These years of social interaction that, leads to feelings of isolation and low self-esteem add up for kids on the spectrum. And they might do well while they're with mom and dad, and then when they get into junior high, it starts to all fall apart, because they can't handle it in either their sensory issues or the social understanding piece or any of the other complicating factors. And so these stressors start to add up over time, and they cause problems in students. All of a sudden they don't want to go to anything, they don't want to be involved with other people, they start to isolate. So there's many causes of this, and I'd like to go through them, and then we'll talk mostly about the solution. So one cause is empathic overload. And this is not talked about much in the field, but for me it was really a big factor. So for example, if I watch a whole bunch of documentaries on the Holocaust, I'm going to become overwhelmed with the cruelty, the physical illness, of what happened, the emotional drainage for me of watching it, and become distraught and try to figure out how I can stop other people from doing these things. So it becomes a personal, special interest almost. So I have to be watch out for that. My perfectionism and disconnection. When you are perfectionistic and you can't work with other people unless they do it your way, you have unrealistic internal narratives about how things should be done, and trouble regulating your own emotions with other people in the workplace, and to manage your relationships with them because of it. So the idea is for your students to get used to always making new mistakes, not being afraid, because that's how they can use their genius the best. Is try new things, and all of a sudden, and you'd be surprised what talents they might have that they don't even know. And this is true with everyone, not just kids on the spectrum. You didn't know that you were really, for me it was volunteering at a children's center in college. I never wanted to work with children, but after I got around them, I said, it's really wonderful to help them and mentor them. So I really liked it, even though I was planning to be an English teacher. And so that's some of the contributing factors. Other ones are loneliness and social paralysis. Like I said, being afraid to try anything new, not knowing how to form social relationships or keep them, so that in junior high, your little friends from your childhood drift away because other people call them up and invite them to events or text them, and you're not assertive enough to do that. And all of a sudden you find yourself in your teen years isolated, at least I did, and without the tools to process my emotional overwhelm. So, and then I could fall into, another thing that we can do is fall into analysis paralysis, where we can't make up our minds about anything because we're judging every angle and trying to figure it totally out instead of just trying it. Saying, okay, I'll try that one, and if that doesn't work, I'll try this one, or polling your, the people you love or the people you trust and say, what do you think about this? So the sensory overload can also occur, and that can occur at any time. Family event, your friend just spending too much time with you and not knowing when to leave. Physical spaces where you feel enclosed, like airports, be sensory overloads for sure. A lot of kids can't handle those things. So not enough sunlight, clutter, I have a problem with that with my spouse, just cluttering the house, and I found a strategy. I just pick it up if it's all in the bedroom and put it in their closet, so I don't have to deal with it. And or I put the stuff in the kitchen all in one corner of the counter. So it's just everything's clean but that area, and then they have to deal with it. So that's the way I deal with it now, because I get a little angry if I clean up after them and internalize that. So let's talk about strategies for preventing and healing. First of all, there are a lot of social strategies for building a network is essential. So most of your parents have built the networks for your children, and they don't know, they haven't done it themselves. And so your task is to help them learn how to build their own networks. There's a saying, we get to create the fellowship we crave, or we get to create the things that we need in our lives. That, I always used to tell my students, there's not going to be a mail order bride that arrives at your doorsteps unless you order one. But even then, you have to learn how to ask a girl for coffee, or sit down and talk, listen to, ask them questions, not just talk about your special interest. There's so many fine-tuning things that people have to do in relationships to build relationships. So they can join a special interest group, volunteer in the community on projects, participate in social skills classes or therapy. There's lots of different things they can do. But really initiating is the main skill, learning how to initiate and get your own support. I didn't ask one professor for any help in college. After college, when I was in my master's program, and I needed an A, because they had a cumulative average you had to have to pass your master's, and I was lacking. I had a C, and I had to make it, a B or something, I had to make it into an A. So I told the professor, I'll do anything you want. I have a newborn baby. I'm moving to 5 states away. I have a job, and I need to have my master's. And whatever you want me to do, I'll do. So he gave me some extra papers to do and said, I'm not going to guarantee you the A unless you do pretty well on the test. So I said, okay. And I did it all, and I passed. But that was the only time in college or university or high school that I asked for help. Because, I'm a know-it-all, and I think I could do it myself. That's been really a harmful thing for me. So cultivate relationships with mentors. One of my friends is really good at insurance, and I live in Mexico. So I'm gonna, I ask him, what insurance do you have? How do you do it? How do you get your U.S. insurance to pay down here? Blah, blah, blah. So I get to do that now. I can do that. And choose uplifting environments and people to be around. You don't need any more toxicity, You don't want people that aren't supporting you and rooting for you. So choose them, and if you have others that aren't supporting you, you don't have to diss them, but just put them on a different category of friendship. These are peripheral friends. These are closer friends, and these are more like best friends. That's what I do now, and I try to invite some people out to do different things every week so I get out of my shell. So another big, huge area for us on the spectrum is cognitive flexibility. And that is huge because we get into a mindset about something, and it's really difficult for our parents or anyone to change it unless they can prove it to us. And sometimes they can, and sometimes they can't. So cognitive, how do you loosen that? How do you break up these cognitive rigidity? Well, cognitive behavior therapy is really good for that. You can use the donkey rule. A student can use the donkey rule where they, I think I invented it. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But if I get stuck, I ask 5 people their opinion. Is this a donkey or is this a horse? If they all say it's a horse and it's a horse, then I stop being a jackass and I do what they say. And so or even 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 sometimes. So I had very religiosity, there it is. and when I was small. And I always say if I was a Jew, I'd be at the Wailing Wall like this all day. If I was a Muslim, I'd be going counterclockwise around the Hajj. But I was Catholic, so I was doing the Catholic rules more stringently than the Pope. And I had to break that up slowly. And as an adult, it took till I was an adult, really, only 10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe. So another strategy for getting better is wellness routines. And these are critical because if we don't know we're having a sensory meltdown, then we're going to pay the price again. Lose job, lose relationship, lose whatever. And so paying attention to your emotional wellness, eating good meals, incorporating sensory-friendly activities, swimming, walking. I swim almost every day. I have a hot tub. Try new things, new books, new streets to walk down, new foods. These are all hard things for us to do, but you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, so I think taking care of self, I decided in January that this year was going to be a year of radical self-care for me. And I proclaimed the year of Michael. And my spouse said, "Oh, you're going to be selfish the whole year?" I said, "Yeah, like I've been so selfish for you. I'm going to do it for me." And so I haven't really done much, but I do take care of myself first now, because that's really important. And of course, having a heart full of gratitude keeps away a lot of negativity. The book, if I recommend a book to you, it's The Power of Now, staying in the moment. Because in the moment, everything is really pretty good. It's pretty beautiful. And, then you just take care of one thing at a time, clear up the things that you need to do. But staying really positive, keeping your thinking positive is really important. Because all this stuff happens to everyone every day. When I was running my centers, I used to tell the directors, there's always going to be a toilet that doesn't work. There's always going to be a student that's upset with you. There's always going to be a parent complaining. And so your job is to deal with that and don't run from it. Just accept the fact that this is going to happen. But there's always going to be a student that does something outstanding. And you say, wow. There's always going to be a parent who's supportive and offers to, hey, here's a new ping pong table for the rec room. There's all of these type of things exist at the same time. So don't get latched onto only the problems. So it's really important I avoid alcohol and other stimulants. I use light. The light and colors you notice very neutral in my house. A lot of plants. I have plants and gardens all over my property, just beautiful plants. So I created this really nice environment. I have a slow, mindful morning routine. I like candles sometimes instead of putting the lights on. These are all things that we need to take responsibility for our own selves. Spiritual grounding is really important. Spend time in nature, consider equine therapy, use meditation and mindfulness. I started praying for everyone in my life about 2 months ago, morning and at night. It takes me about 15 minutes to go through the list. And I pray for these bad actors in the world too. And I won't mention names to be political, but you know who they are. And I pray for them, and I pray for the people that they're abusing, to stop, that they get what they need. So therapy, obviously, we talked about it a little bit. So my final thoughts really are, it's all up to you. You don't have to be a victim in your own life. You do not have to feel these things are going to come, the anxiety, the isolation, but it's your responsibility as a student, as a parent, to break out of that and do whatever it has to take. I was feeling this today. I didn't want to do anything today. And I said, get up. What can you do, Michael? You can't do the projects that you really want to do. I didn't feel like my brain was in the right space for writing, which I really need to do, and editing and things. So I got up, I went to the store, the special bird store, got a whole bunch of bird seeds for my parakeets. I sent some electric bills to my contractor so he can get my solar guy set up. And I sent an article to Autism Parent Magazine. And I decided to do this little video to get out of my head so I could have a feeling that I'm breaking out of my own anxiety and depression today and being proactive and giving to the world. And I already feel better doing all those things. And, you know, the thing is, you don't have to sit in your own you-know-what. You can get up and change it. And no matter how bad the day is, there's always dishes to do, which mine still are there. And so I'll do it after this. But, okay, I want to say ciao for now. Have a good day. You know, take what you like and leave the rest.